Good afternoon. No, evening. Evenings, it's after. What time? I always get confused. When does afternoon end and evening start? It's evening now, isn't it? 7 o'clock.
I'd always say 6 o'clock. I'd say probably early evening. Would you say early
Yeah,
evening?
I'll go with that.
Not early
Hello,
evening.
Rosemary. No, not tonight. Because we're fairly full.
Are we drawing this freehand then?
You can do. I think I. Do you want to, or are you scared?
I'm not.
You want to trace?
Yeah, go on. Yes, please. Could do it, but it's easier.
That's all right.
Thank you. So next door do it. Brilliant.
Yeah, he tried setting it up quite a while ago, but
So what do they do next door? Do they frame? They don't frame.
no, they kind of talk about the framing and then he does it.
So where's the framing guy? Is that
Next door to the
opposite?
pizza place.
Opposite. Oh, right. Good. I think he's been there a long time
Yeah.
ago. He's been there a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he used to be in the cellar.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Who have you got in the cellar now? Sorry.
My ex-wife. No, is a guy called Jay. He's actually a DJ and a singer as well, but he sells second-hand vinyl records and cassettes and music.
Right.
He sells online. Downstairs is his kind of storeroom,
Yeah.
but he's open a few hours every day, so
Yeah.
you can go and have a browse. And he's got like a turntable set up,
'Cause
so you
he's-
can listen
yeah,
to
he's
the
got that
records.
virtual reality, whatever it's called, thing going on, hasn't he?
Who?
The guy next
Oh,
door.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
The because the person does it. It's Liz Marrow's husband, Mark.
Finished this over the weekend.
I saw that. It's lovely.
My
Because
last one.
You have one up here.
Yeah, I've got it in the
Yeah.
window. That's my last one.
That's
Oh,
lovely.
let's see. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Isn't it lovely?
That's in
You've got
Gouache.
her smile, haven't you?
That's so lovely.
That's in Gouache. So
Love
yeah.
that.
Oh, you've just captured that sparkle in her
Yes.
eyes.
Yeah.
So I've got to varnish it yet, but I just thought
It's lovely.
last one ever.
Sad, isn't it?
It is. But in a way, when I will do one of Charles, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Once I've got used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now he's got quite a lived-in face. I think he'll be good for a portrait.
Yeah, he has got
Yeah.
a living face.
And his features have caught up with him.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I've just done
Oh, that's
a
all right.
read.
That's all right.
So you don't need to book an appointment next door, Barry. You
I
just
don't
turn
think
up.
so. I mean, it's not always clear when they're open. I think it'll clean.
Right.
But
What's the name of it?
Plum Gallery.
Plum.
Yeah.
P on the end.
No.
There's P on the
Like
end.
the fruit.
Plum.
Apparently, it was he was a Buddhist or some sort of meditate advisor or something. Plum, I don't know.
So it would be worth phoning.
I'd definitely go there
Yeah.
and just see. But if not, it'd be the art framing workshop and speak to Mick if you can't get through to the gallery. But yeah, he's got all the proper printing stuff set up. But I don't know. I imagine they'd just do a one-off.
Yeah.
There's a girl called.
Because do you use, mind you, it's only just started doing that, so for your cards and things like that and your prints, whether you use somebody online or
I use online only because I can't afford to support locally, and I feel really bad.
No.
But I
Because I didn't even know how the technology worked, so I went online and it looked like you had to have like a scanner, or the better quality scanner than the better
as long as you've
quality.
got a decent iPhone, that's all I do.
Right.
I take a good iPhone photo and then edit the colours
But
to
your-
make it match.
I do, but your iPhone is that like a high standard?
Mm,
Mine's only an 8.
I think this is one up from that. It's an 8S or whatever they're
Ah,
called.
okay.
I ain't got a clue.
No, I was just wondering, was it good enough? That was all for it to work.
I thought I don't. Well, I only do the cards around about Christmas time,
Right.
but it can be expensive, but you see sometimes Call Quick are good, or Banbury Print and Design in George Street, but they won't do. I don't think they'll do professional prints.
Yeah. When I went online, there were so many different finishes.
Oh, it's
I just
it's a
thought
minefield. It's a
I don't know,
minefield.
Is there a finish that you knew? No. Oh, do you know what? I'll take their advice.
They'll tell you, because I
They'll
mean
tell you
there's
when they see it.
Senecchio who have moved to the back of B&Q, and they're a family printers, but they are a lot more expensive, and they might want only to do several print runs, whereas I think Mick
Yeah.
will do
And I think the
just
fact that it's
one
got
or two.
an art gallery and things, then
yeah, because they're good at colour matching. He's quite particular, and Megan, the girl who does that, she's really good. So it's something he wanted to set up just before COVID, and then obviously COVID got in the way, and now that it's been a slow process starting it all up again. But yeah, it's to make some bird song sounds or something. I was in here yesterday. I was teaching yesterday. We did watercolours yesterday morning.
Should we take this down, Larry?
Nah.
No, just
Nah. You don't have to. Oh, it would help if I turn my speaker on as well. There we go. How are you today, Rosemary? I've not been rude. How are you doing? So, I haven't. There's me sitting down. No, but
just let you know, with no paint.
told you I'm not with it at all today. I don't know what I'm doing.
This is Gouache, isn't it? We're doing?
Better be, because that's what
That's
I did a calligraphy class.
That's right. I just thought double check.
Calligraphy on Saturday.
Yeah.
I spent Friday night setting everything up, printing it all out, because it was an autumn calligram where we were doing a poem in calligraphy in the shape of an autumn leaf. Got it all set up. Was expecting a full class. They came and they went, "What's this?" And I went, "It's today's lesson." And they said, "No, it's not." I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "It shouldn't be this." So I checked, and it shouldn't have been. That was next month. And one said, "I can't come to next month," and I chose this because I knew it was this. So I had to.
Usually they just say, "Oh, it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
Oh,
So
what
I
a
then
shame.
had to and find out what actually the lesson was. That I was. I've only been doing this for 25 years. You've got to give me a break. I'm still quite a novice. So.
When you're doing so many though, Barry.
Oh, I don't know if it's New Week or New York half the time. I'm lost a while.
Really? I'm quite looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think Wendy's will like you.
Oh, you'll love it, Wendy.
I'm excited about this week.
So I've almost just about finished next January to June's classes. So that's why I don't know what I'm doing.
No wonder.
That's my excuse anyway.
Yeah.
And there'll be some new things as well. I'll be doing monthly paint and prosecco parties on a Friday evening, once a month. There might be more craft based at times, so it might be lino printing or glass painting. And in the lighter months, so from after Easter, I'll be doing a Tuesday evening, and it'll be the Dawn to Acrylics.
Oh, right, no, then I'd like that.
So it's
Acrylic is my favourite.
yeah. So what that is every week. So for 2 weeks you use the same reference, but 1 week you do a full blown drawing, and the next week you do a full blown painting, but not based on the drawing. So you can come to both, so you get 2 finished pictures, or you can either just come to the drawing or just come to the acrylic. I wasn't
You did it online
during lockdown. Yeah.
and it went well, that course. But the drawing is proper drawings. It's not tracing, Wendy. So you're doing.
Yeah,
No, but it's
you
nice.
can trace in the acrylic side,
Oh,
Yeah.
but But when you do the drawing, what's
Yeah.
really interesting about it is you get to understand the tone, the shade. So when you do the painting the following week, you know a bit more about it, so it gives you a bit more confidence.
Okay.
So it's not scary.
Sounds
No, we measure using fingers and hands and stuff.
right.
So I'll go right. We go 4 fingers in, 3 fingers up, do a line or something like that.
Okay.
So it's not that scary. But I was asked the other day for drawing classes and acrylic classes from people who can only work in the evenings, and I thought, well, I haven't really got enough time. But then I thought, equally, I haven't got any money, so I might as well do something. No point in having time if you've got no money to spend it while you got the time, is there?
That's so true.
So I thought, do you know what? But if I do it when it's dark, I won't get as many people. So if I do it
Yeah.
just over the summer months, so it'll probably run Easter till the end of September.
You're not doing it in the winter.
Probably not, because I don't think we'll get many people. Personally, I know it's. I've just read your comment, Rosemary. I know it's been a bit of a shock with everything going on, hasn't it? It's not been easy. It's affected me far more. I tell you what really got me on Thursday evening is when I got home. I got home at 6 o'clock, and then it was announced that the Queen had passed away. And I was a bit tearful, and I didn't think I would be. And then
And then I got more tears.
the pub opposite lowered the flag at half mast, and that got me. And I'm not really royal, but I think it's because I think that's it. No matter what's gone on in the world or in the country, and let's face it, there's a lot gone on in recent years. She's always been there. She's always been there, and she's never said a lot, but what she has said has been the right thing at the right time. And I think it's that constancy, and I think she's been like the country's gran in a way.
I also think that how we are viewed from an international, global
Yeah.
perspective. You know,
Yes.
She is a massive symbol, isn't she, of the United Kingdom.
Absolutely.
And how she is, she's held in high regard, isn't she?
The
by
the
so
French
many
president
people
did the
around the
most amazing speech. I don't know if you heard his.
world. No, I saw
speech, the
Canadian,
French
I saw,
president.
Trudeau.
It was amazing. He delivered it in full English, and he basically said something. Yes, she was your queen, but to us, she was the queen.
That's lovely.
And everybody viewed her in that way. I think because she was so lovely. And I think it's affected a lot of people, to be honest, in more ways. And I think it also makes you, because of that constancy ending, it makes you reflect more, and it's made me think more about my own parents, losing them, and just loss in general. I think it does just bring it all home a lot more, which is weird, isn't it?
President Trudeau was really
He was.
affected.
Yeah.
He was
very
that
moved.
picture, they showed the picture of where he was with the Queen, and he's actually got her hand in both of his. I thought, well, that's not protocol, but just obviously that's how he felt.
warm
and just sort of,
he delivered a lovely speech.
and I think everybody felt the same, as you say. It affected so many people. And it seemed so sudden because we all knew she was frail.
Yes.
And having
We
to
were
take
just
it
saying that
easy.
downstairs, but then suddenly on Thursday morning, for seemingly, Tuesday she was meeting Liz, and getting the new Prime Minister off, grinning by the fireplace, looking very frail, but having a good old grin. And then Thursday, it was very sudden. So I think that's what made it more shocking. You're not expecting it, are you? Not at that point.
No, because Philip was ill, wasn't he? And
Mm.
I know when they fetched him from the hospital home, he looked really poorly.
Yes.
So you sort of got that
Yeah.
inkling that things were going awry, but
Yeah. It was very sudden. I dare say over time we'll find out why or how, but not that we need to. I mean, it's none of our business, is it really? But it would be interesting to find out because it was so sudden. Yeah. It's just been weird. I mean, it's very weird anyway, you know, having a new prime minister and all of that in 1 week. It's been a really busy week. And I think also what's different is that we've had 70 years of constancy. You know, we were saying if somebody was born in 1900, they'd have gone through 5 monarchs, 2 world wars, a depression, and the pandemic. That all by the 50. You know, by the time they were 50. Whereas for us, we're not used to change.
No, that's right.
And I think that's the biggest impact that it's had, because for nearly everybody alive, you know, from the age of even, you know, the oldest generation, from young children, she was the queen.
Well, that's right. I mean, I don't remember specifically the coronation other than through the photographs.
Yeah.
We had a parade in the avenue, and then a big marquee up the top in the field,
Yeah.
where we had a meal and that. But I only remember it from the photographs that have been
Yeah.
taken.
My mum could she was born in 44, and she could just about remember everyone going to the one house with the telly on the council estate and going round to watch it. But, you know, she couldn't really remember life before the coronation and the king. So I think that's the difference, isn't it? We're just not used to it. And now, in my lifetime, I'll probably see 3 monarchs, won't I? I dare say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all change.
Yeah, there'll never be another one.
No,
Not like
she was definitely a one-off.
no.
Are you drawn, Rosemary? Oh, your uncle made a telly for the family to watch. Oh, that's amazing. See, my granddad was a radio engineer for the RAF, and anything with a valve he could fix. So people would come up from miles around for Bill to fiddle with the valves and sort them out and fix them. So he was good with the old valve tellies and the valve radios and everything, but he wouldn't have a clue looking at technology now. But then most of us don't have a clue looking at technology. Even the people in technology don't have a clue, do they?
I didn't know you could get a can of gouache.
You can't. Well, you kind of can, but this is my own tin, and I've just squeezed the tubes into empty ones. And the reason for that is when I was doing it weekly. When I was doing it weekly, I was ending up putting them on the tile and thinking, oh, I'll keep it on my tile. But after it dried, they shrink and then they fall off the tile, and then I'd lose them in the carpet, or I'd have to bin them. So I thought I'll just shove them in there. The only thing I found is, although I've got white, I need an extra white that's wet, just to give me more opacity. But basically, I just squeeze them all in.
It's an empty pan and then you fill.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah.
And then they keep once you close it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes if they're a bit sticky, I have to keep it flat, otherwise I'll run everywhere. But no, it works really well. I'm quite pleased with my invention. But like Karen Dash do some gouache tins, and they're quite big pans actually of them. So you can get them, but they're mainly in tubes. Most people use them in tubes. Oh, your uncle's name was Ace, and he was in the Air Force. That's a good name for someone in the Air Force, isn't it? Ace. Ace. See, my great uncle was called, what was he called? He died in World War II. Up the road. Allenby. But they all used to call him Alan, like Alan a Dale. But yeah, he was Allenby, but he was only like 22 when he died. And he died in Northamptonshire, though. No war in Northamptonshire, but he was a sapper. He died at Ashby St Ledgers, just the other side of Badby near Daventry. And it was sort of, they think he was training, because they all stayed at the manor to do training there, and they think he was explaining and demonstrating how to defuse a mine or a bomb, but it wasn't a dummy, and they didn't know, and it went off.
Oh, how awful.
But that's family legend, but I can't find any evidence other than he was killed in action in the middle of Northamptonshire. But there was nothing. There would be nothing to kill you in Northamptonshire at that time. And we've found letters from him to the family where he was stationed months before he died at Ashby-St Ledgers, and I checked with the manor house and they said it was used at the time. But I went there, the first White House to walk the pavements of the village. I went there to see if there was going to be something to mark the fact that he died, but I think it's been a bit of a cover-up because it shouldn't have happened. So that's the tricky bit. Now, I don't know what to do about this background, because you're on white paper, aren't you? You're on green paper, and we've got green thing, but Rosemary, you're on white, aren't you? So, what you can do is you can do with gouache, you can paint with it a bit like watercolour, so you can do greeny wet in wet bits, which we could have a play at doing, I suppose, even with us on the green card. We can't use tons of water though on the green card, just because it's not watercolour paper.
Okay.
But you can still use a little bit. So what I'll do is, I've given you paint now, haven't I? Yes. Oh. Right, so if I go with a bit of lemon and a bit of ultramarine, just to make a bit of lighter green for me, but you can make it slightly darker, but I am making it nice and runny. I'm kind of just doing sort of really wishy-washy grassy bits. I love toadstools. It may not surprise you because there's paintings of toadstools everywhere, and normally there'd be a little gnome attached to them or something. Yeah.
There is water, but not a huge amount, but there is water.
Well, you can make your paint on your tile runny,
Yeah.
as long as you've not got a really soaking brush and a soaking wet bit of paper, because it will take a bit of abuse, but not too much. So I've gone a bit more yellowy, and I'm kind of creating a vignette. It's quite good for you for your first one, actually, because you can use it like a watercolour, or you can use it a bit heavier. It's funny, do you know, I've got I did a digital drawing of the Queen, sort of for the Jubilee, and I put it on my Redbubble account, and initially it was flagged to be checked, and then it was passed. I don't know why, I suppose to make sure it wasn't horrible, or a photograph maybe. That's me thinking I'm clever. But on Thursday evening, Friday morning, I had an email from Redbubble to say that the picture of the Queen was flagged again, and they're going to check it again. So maybe they took all images of the Queen off when she passed away for the time being. I don't know. But it just seemed a bit weird. Because, I mean, it went through one check. There's a few things that they've taken off. I did a free full-length painting of a tiny camper van, a VW camper van, going through the Irish mountains, and the camper van was basically the size of a thumb joint, and it was in the bright blue and white, the traditional camper van thing, but coming from the back, and that got flagged and that got pulled by VW, because they with Redbubble they don't allow any VW symbols, elements, or anything.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
just them protecting
Their copyright. On other sites, I'm adding a bit more blue to give a bit more depth. On other sites you could sell it, but I double checked and there's not a single VW camper van. I did another one I a long time ago. Rosemary, you might remember doing it. I did a rusty old VW in a forest. Do you remember? I put that on Redbubble, and within half an hour that got flagged and pulled by VW, and that was just a rusty one. Oh gosh, there must be a bot or something that trawls everything. Because I was saying to Jackie, I've seen loads of camper van paintings and stuff, but they'll all be the ones sold on sites that clearly aren't as popular for VW to trawl through. So it's quite unusual that the Queen's one was pulled. So I'd like to put that on, but I know it will possibly be pulled. So I've had to change the colour of her clothes just in case. She should have been in pink with a big white ostrich feather over the top of her hat. But I thought I'll just leave it at that. But I enjoyed doing that, and what I enjoyed most with that portrait is that I deliberately tried to get it so her face filled the board rather than a formal portrait. And it's funny, I said to Jackie the other day, I want to get into portrait painting more now. I'm feeling that's where I want to do some interesting stuff. But if I do, it'll be like that, where it's different. And you get to see more of the face and play about more. And what's really good on those wooden panels, it's basically flesh coloured anyway. The wood, so you don't have to do a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still keep it quite wishy-washy, and then I'm going to add a bit of burnt sienna. Oh, I think I need it a bit darker than that. Bit of ultramarine and burnt sienna. So it's like a sludgy, greeny, browny grey. And then I'm going to just pop that in the bottom and fiddle it around. So, yeah, but I've shoved it in a bit of me green, just because I can. See, what's good about gouache is that it's opaque, so you can put your light colours on top of your dark colours, which, as you know from when you do watercolours, you can't do that. So it's a bit more freeing. You've done a gouache with us, haven't you, Bill? Yeah. Because I know you ended up doing one on your own at home, which wasn't gouache. You did a gouache, but in acrylics. Yeah. And then you've done one here, haven't you, in with actual gouache.
Sorry, what did you put?
Your brown and a bit of blue.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right. Did you see, Janet, that I was on the roof last Tuesday?
No.
You know, we had that torrential downpour, like the biggest one. No, but 3 weeks ago I said to Kathy, all the leaves are on that roof. I ought to go and sort it, but the guy who did the roof said, "No, you don't need to bother doing that because it's watertight." But there were a lot of leaves. We'd got some chicken wire in the guttering in the middle of the shop because it dips. That's where the guttering is, and it kind of was a magnet to everything. It didn't repel it; it just trapped it all. And then we've had some downpours, but that was like end of the world type rain, and it was coming down. I was teaching a class and I went, I'm just going to check. So I looked through the bathroom window and the water was up the skylights, and I said to my online students, Rosemary was one of them and my student in here, I need to go, I'll be back in 10 minutes. So I said to Kathy, I'm going on the roof. So I grabbed a chair, went on the roof, went to go and do it, but it was already over the top of my shoes. So I had to take my shoes and socks off, roll my trousers up, go and paddle on the roof and scoop out all of the sludge and everything. And then when I went downstairs, I'd noticed it come through the sides of the only a bit, and then at the other end, because also I was sloshing, so I was aggravating it. I mean, it was a humongous amount of water. But I've now bought and installed, they're called hedgehog gutters, or gutter hedgehogs rather, and it's just like a long, if you imagine a pipe cleaner, but huge, and they just sit in your guttering, and it stops the leaves from collecting. So we've got 2 lots of guttering across the roof. So I've got gutter hedgehogs now. They're my pets. I'm just going a little bit darker, so I've added a bit more blue. So for you, Wendy, you're not going to notice much difference from this to normal watercolours at the moment, are you?
No.
Because we're making them dilute and wishy-washy and what have you. You like gouache, Amanda, don't you?
I do, yeah. I like to do animals with my
Yeah.
gouache. I think, because I think I've done one, I can't think when it was, but so like the hair is,
We did a Saturday with the hair and the moon, didn't we?
yeah.
Oh my god, I saw that.
And
I
the,
watched that on
the fact that you can get the fine little hairs on the top.
Yeah. It's really, really good.
You can't do that with watercolour. You can't go in light afterwards.
No, you don't. If you were going to go back in with light in watercolour, you'd end up having to do it in gouache
Yeah.
anyway. So it defeats the object, really. I've also planned the art history, Janet.
Oh, right.
There's some unusual ones.
Oh, good. What have you got?
Women Artists Part 3, because there's a new book out by Kate Hessel called The Story of Art Without Men, and basically she's rewritten art history and then done the opposite to what's been done, and instead of the normal art history books that have all the men and leave the women out, she's done all the women and leaving the men out. So there'll be that one. I'm doing Celtic art. I don't know what order this is. I'll have a look. Oh, that's the wrong book. Hang on a minute. Let me get the right book. This isn't even the real copy because I've already changed it. Where am I? Oh, Japanese art, which is different. A special one on Caspar David Friedrich, a wonderful landscape painter, one of my favourites. He does the most beautiful landscapes. Caspar David Friedrich. I think he's Dutch or German. I can't remember. But he's one of my faves. And then I'm doing 2 really interesting ones. One is how artists see themselves. So it's loads of self-portraits by different artists throughout the ages. Because sometimes it's quite nice trying to think of how to look at a group of paintings without it always being a genre. And I thought that'd be quite nice. And then another one on what did it sell for? So we're looking at paintings throughout the years and how much, probably be in dollars, but how much they sold for, starting with the smallest amount going up to the biggest. I thought that'd be a good way of just looking at a broad spectrum of paintings from all different genres and different artists and different styles and movements. So yeah. So those are the 6 for the next year.
They look really good.
There was a programme recently, I think it was to do with, it was an antique roadshow.
Fake or Fortune?
Yes, that's it.
I haven't seen any of those
And there
yet.
was an artist, and I can't think of his name. Anyway, they were trying to prove whether it was, what was his name? Whether it was an original. And he went back to the father who actually did go to visit the artist in Italy, and he could prove that, and then he did a gallery when he got back. They more or less eventually said that they did think it was an original.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like it when they get their teeth into it.
I need to think of the artist's name.
I saw one years ago of the Monet one, and they basically found the canvas, and they could trace the canvas to the shop that Monet would have bought it from.
Right,
They
yeah.
found the view that Monet would have got to.
Right, so yes, so they go into so much detail.
They do, but
Even the paper,
yes,
the paper that it was on,
Yeah.
was this paper from that time.
that's
And
amazing.
then even the sketchbooks that he'd used, the indentation along the side.
Oh gosh,
was
they
it
can
the
really see the same
yeah,
thing.
From the, and it was the same kind of. So there were a lot of ticks in the box for, you know.
Well, the Monet one was a bit similar because they went to. There's only one person in the whole world that can say whether a Monet is real or not, and he was the son of the man who already said it was a fake, and who had passed away.
Right.
And even in light of overwhelming evidence, he said, "Well, because my father said it was a fake, it is a fake."
Isn't that terrible? Yeah.
But I guess I was outraged, as you can imagine. It doesn't take much to outrage me. But I then thought, if he said yes, I'll accept it, how many others that his father had said were fake would then be open for reconsultation? So I thought he's probably doing himself a favour. You can make your brown even darker with a bit more black, with a bit of black. Just a little bit. Right under and around your toadstools, because we can put grass back on top if we want to. I remember seeing the one of Lowry, and he'd spent his whole career making himself into a legend about himself, like, oh, I'm a simple man with simple means and I only use 3 colours and what have you. But when they looked at this painting, they said initially it was a fake because it was using zinc white, and Lowry never used zinc white. But then they stumbled upon loads of photographs, and they found a photograph of that painting on his mantelpiece, and then they found a photograph of Lowry at his desk, and under his desk were boxes of zinc white paint.
Okay, so there you go.
And they basically worked out that he just wanted to make himself more interesting and commercial. So he said he only used so many colours, but actually he didn't. But equally with that, how many paintings would have been sold as fakes because it was zinc white? See, us artists, we don't realise the trouble we cause when we try to make ourselves more fancy than we are. Not me, because I don't really care. I don't paint to have my work live on after me. As long as I live long enough for the cheque to dry. That's all I'm worried about. I'm not bothered at all. I mean, I am so... If you imagine how many paintings I do in a month. I do 40 pictures a month. When I pop my clogs, they're going to go through a right... Can you imagine? I'll leave them all to Jackie and leave her to sort it out. Because I know if it was down to my sister, she'd just bin it all. I ought to work that out. I do about 2,500 paintings a year. It must be about that. 40 pieces of art a month. Maybe not that many then. Hang on. 40 times 12. No, it's only about 500 paintings a month. But,
Really?
yeah. But I've been doing it 12 years. Well, that's that. So since I've opened, I've done nearly 6,000 pieces of art here, and that's not including all the other art I've done previously to being here in my old life. And I've no idea where they all are. I mean, I've probably binned a fair few. Right, need that to dry. The conkers are all out.
Yeah.
The acorns are full on the trees, but they're not brown yet. We're hurtling towards the middle of September and the official start of autumn.
Mushrooms will be out soon.
They will. I saw somebody on a mushroom identification group in Facebook yesterday say they found a massive field mushroom, but they just wanted to double check before they cooked it. Yeah. I couldn't do it. Do you forage, Bill?
No.
I wouldn't trust myself.
No, not with
Even if I went on a course, I wouldn't trust myself.
You spotted those the other day that were actually farm grown.
Oh yeah, the chicken of the woods.
Chicken of the woods. Oh,
Well,
they're
mind
quite
you-
a delicacy, aren't they?
Yeah. Mind you, this was growing on you, so
Oh yes, yes. Maybe not best to try those, because apparently the mold that grows on corn on the cob, the fungus in that is a delicacy in some places. Some countries will fry it off and cook it because it's like a blue-green fungus that grows on the corn of the cob. But apparently it's really quite a delicacy. It always makes me chuckle to myself when I think of, different eras. Who was the guy that decided to taste all of these things and work out, what was good? Absolutely, for us to enjoy certain mushrooms, because you can only eat it once, can't you? If it's poisonous, because that's it.
That's it.
It just makes me constantly just think back and think, who do we have to thank that went through all of this for us? Right, I did say I'll let that dry, and then what did I do? Pick my brush up again. I'm so naughty. We'll do the stems next. But yeah, we'll be doing more mindfulness art sessions next year as well. So there'll be Monday day at Wardington, Monday night here, same format. Then Tuesday afternoon acrylics in the light months. Tuesday evening drawn to acrylics. Then there's Wednesday drawing, Thursday morning pastels, Thursday afternoon watercolours, Friday morning monthly art history or mindfulness art, Friday afternoon watercolours. Friday evening will either be our oil class once a month or paint and prosecco once a month, and then Saturday morning either demo or calligraphy or masterclass kind of beginner's day, and then Sunday watercolours. So nice busy week for next year. I know, I've been pacing myself because obviously I used to do more than that pre-COVID, and since then I've been kind of not able to do it because I'm just tired. It's COVID's taken it out on me, I think. I just don't feel. I was looking at a photograph of me and Jackie at the Cherwell Business Awards in 2017 when I was not grey and slimmer and young looking, and that's only a few years ago, and I said to Jackie, I don't even feel like the same person. I can't remember that person,
It's had a very odd effect, I think.
Yeah, I just feel very drained constantly because it's just, I'd like to have a couple of months where we're not going through a once in a lifetime problem or challenge, because there's quite a lot of once in a lifetime things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years, haven't
And
they?
I think that's the issue with what's happened with the Queen as well. It's
Yes.
a time when things are not great, everybody was worrying about the bills. And,
Yeah.
it just makes you feel a bit more insecure, doesn't it? The whole.
But as we were saying, it's, it gives us a greater appreciation to those born at the start of last century,
Yeah.
because it's basically identical. If you were born in the year 2000, you'll have gone through, we're having issues with the climate. You've gone through the whole problem with Ukraine. You've gone through.
Can you imagine sending your child off to war? I mean, that's
No.
the ultimate worst.
Absolutely.
Anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
We haven't had to do that, have we? Well,
No.
Actually, people, I suppose Afghanistan. places
Yes.
Like that.
But not in the
But not the same degree.
not in the same degree. Um, but yeah, we'll be doing more mindfulness art sessions next year. We'll be doing more mindfulness art sessions. 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 We'll be doing more mindfulness So it does start making you think and have more empathy. And it's sad that I find I feel I'm quite an empathic person, but for certain things, I do have to experience it before I can fully understand how somebody feels. I mean, now we've gone through a pandemic or a plague, you can see how people were, you know, during the plague. And it's got to affect you. And why art didn't really reflect it, because you want to paint stuff that doesn't have anything to do with it, don't you really?
I found a letter from my uncle to my dad, dated 1945. He was waiting in Europe for DMAR, and my dad was ahead of him and was about to come home. And he says about the mental strain of the war, and he says just what he was saying. He says to my dad, if when you get home you feel down about it, come and talk to me, because I'll understand what we've been going through, and people
Yeah.
at home won't.
No.
And I just rang, I thought, that's now.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, and every generation has felt things in a different way, and it's really hard. I mean, I feel for the little kids who've missed out on years of school, because I can't imagine what that would be like, not to see your friends and not to have your last year of primary school, which is a big thing. I mean, Jackie's youngest didn't have her last year of primary school. They didn't have the leavers assemblies. They didn't have, you know, what have you. And you lose all of that stuff, and then loads of people that haven't had the stress or not stress of doing exams and getting proper grades, or you know, there's such a lot of change for the young people that we won't know how that will affect them for another 10 years, I don't think. So yeah, we just need to be nice to each other, I think.
I think we have to be, definitely.
But it doesn't feel that way sometimes, does it, when you see all of the horribleness. Right, we're going to do a bit of a stem. So this is where you're going to start to feel a bit different, Wendy.
Okay.
I'm going to use a bit of white. A little bit of burnt sienna. Well, I think some of the leaving things is a bit odd. My great niece had a graduation with a cap and gown for leaving nursery school. And I felt like, well, I don't know why we're celebrating. I should hope you'd leave nursery. You know, I'd be worried if they keep you. It seems a little bit odd to celebrate that, but I suppose we're getting a little bit of lemon yellow. Oh, cadmium yellow. Yes, you've got cadmium yellow. The orangey yellow. But I think we are getting more of the American culture. So we're not using this as runny now.
So that was, sorry, what was that, white?
White, a bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow, cad yellow. We did an end of school thing where people signed our homework diaries, I think, or shirts, when I was leaving high school.
Yeah.
But that was about it. We didn't do anything for primary school. I think a few of my friends went and drank cider in the park. Not at primary school, at high school. But we knew we were seeing most of them at college, so not much point. And a few people I was desperate to get rid of and never see. So if I make it a little bit darker. What with is your burnt sienna? Might be your burnt sienna's a bit orange. So add a little bit of ultramarine. And that'll knock back your burnt sienna. Because I've just added a bit more burnt sienna and it's gone a little bit pink. So we'll add a bit of ultramarine in there. What you'll find as well, Wendy, you've just had me for several weeks saying, oh, watercolours dry 30% lighter, gouache dries darker. Do you know, like emulsion?
Yeah.
When you put it on and then it dries a shade darker and a bit flat and matte.
Yeah.
That's kind of what gouache does. So the colour you put it on isn't necessarily the colour it's going to end up. So I'm going to add a bit more blue into my mix and maybe a pinhead of black, just so I can start adding a few slightly darker tones. I really don't know why I like these mushrooms so much. I think it's because there was always one growing at the bottom of the silver birch in my mum's garden. And the squirrels used to come and like knock them all over. And I think of fairies and gnomes, and I love a gnome. Want a bit more brown in there now. But I might have to stop in a minute just so I can see what it looks like. There's little bits of texture on there. I'm going to have to go back with a lighter colour in a minute, I think. Because I've ended up turning it all dark. It's nearly cup of tea time. So yeah, just a reminder that there's no class next Monday evening because of the funeral. I mean, technically it's only a bank holiday, so we could, but I don't think it appropriate, so I'm not.
You've gone in lighter.
Yeah, you can go darker and then you can go lighter.
Right, so we're going to need to look at darker now today.
Yeah, you see, I went too dark, which is the problem.
And then if you're not dark enough, you can't get the light, can you?
No, that's the other thing. Yeah, stick a bit of ultramarine, and if it goes a bit pink, that'll be the burnt sienna's just a bit too orange. So it's a 2-day canal day in October, in a couple of weeks' time, really.
What is it, sorry?
A 2-day canal day, Friday and Saturday. No, Saturday and Sunday, the 1st and the 2nd of October. Is canal day, but a double day down by the canal. Best place for canal day, really. I might fiddle with this a little bit more later on. Right, does anybody want a drink?
Only if you're making an
What, do you want a coffee?
whatever's easiest. I don't mind.
I don't mind.
Coffee or a tea?
Coffee or a tea? Coffee. You'll get a biscuit anyway. did all the ironing with the flat iron again yesterday. If I could get my hands on an old dolly tub and a mangle, I'd be doing that as well.
Oh my god, I remember having that.
I'd love one. Trouble is, the ones I've seen on eBay are like 300 quid for a mangle.
No.
I mean, they're in good nick, but I just think it negates the thing of having a trying to save electricity if
money,
you're
yeah.
spending hundreds of pounds on the thing.
Pardon?
Time to put the bins out.
Time to put the bins out. Run up the road and do it.
No, I don't either. I'm really struggling to get that space.
I've still got pink still.
But I guess historically, it's a really important time of, you know, in history, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I was thinking we've possibly, within a 12-month period, we'll have had a jubilee, a monarch's funeral, and a coronation.
Yeah.
All within 12 months, roughly, I think. Because it could be, Charles could be crowned the end of this year or early next year.
That's true.
So yeah, it's really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
And I'm always trying to think of that when things stress me out. I try to think, but just think how they'll write about it. They'll be studying this for GCSEs. I'm going to add a bit more brown because it had a bit more burnt sienna because it had gone a bit cream. So yes, special times. I know it doesn't feel it doesn't feel that way, does it? When you live in it, but yeah,
I suppose we look back at it and it'll,
yeah, we were there.
yeah.
We were suffering. I mean, the kids already think like people my age were born in the late 1900s.
I know when you see children, their date of birth is sort of like 2012 or something.
Exactly. I say our last lot was 2011. Like, oh, okay.
Well, that's the thing, you know. I was saying this the other day that there are adults with children who've never known Princess Di. You know, she'd gone in what 97.
Yeah.
You know, so if they were born in 1998, they're going to be what 25, 26,
Yeah.
something like that. Scary. But you see, my great grandmother was born in 1891. You know, I'm born 1978, so I would have said, she was born in the late 1800s. So I say exactly the same, but she wasn't alive when I said that. I suppose that's the only difference.
Which is why you still are.
Yes. Yes. Really interesting time. Oh, do you know what? I ought to put in. There's that little crack there where you can see inside. Right. Pause for a minute. Right, so what I want to do is use a bit of cadmium yellow on this tiny one down here. I'm just blobbing it on the top of the cap, and on this one it's quite clear, you can see it on the side. So when we put the yellow on, even though the red, when we put the red on, even though the red is quite opaque, it will pick up and go a little bit lighter. So this is quite enough water on your brush to let the paint move around. I think that's the important bit. And then that around this middle band of the cap. Because I was working yesterday, I don't really know what day it is either, which doesn't really help. It's Tuesday tomorrow, Tuesday tomorrow.
So do you not ever have a day off then, Barry?
Well, it depends what you mean by day off.
I mean a day where you're not working.
No. Never. Because even when I'm not here, I'm invariably answering emails or planning social media, or responding to messages, planning classes. I mean, in some ways, if I might do a painting. I don't really do very many paintings at home,
Right.
unless it's a commission.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of those to do, which is quite exciting. And I will possibly. I bought an iPad for the first time ever during lockdown, and I used Procreate because I wanted to do something digital,
Right.
because then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the trouble I've got is that everything's screen related for me now. I'm sitting down far more hours than I ever have, and I'm swapping one screen. I'm either staring at a laptop screen, staring at my phone screen, or relaxing by staring at an iPad screen.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as a hobby, I'm doing Duolingo, learning Welsh, but that's looking at a screen. So it's not very nice, really. And I used to like going for walks and stuff, but I've kind of chickened out lately because I've always got something to do, and I feel guilty for going for a walk. And I've walked where I live so many times that it's a bit boring on my own because I've got no one to talk to. And then I don't end up actually walking. I do 5 yards, take some photos, and then amble a bit longer. Oh, that's a nice bush. That's a nice tree. I like that leaf. So it can take me a long time to go nowhere. So it's not even good for my mental health or my or exercise because I'm not doing it. I'm just like ambling around with a camera, and all of those photographs are prospective classes. So
you're thinking all the time.
Yeah, but I guess that I was going to say that's probably because I'm self-employed and I have to. But actually, when I was in education, I was usually the first one in and the last one out, and because I loved what I do.
Which is great, but you do need a break as well every now and again, don't you?
Because I've seen a lot of things on the news about quiet quitting, which is
yes.
what I would call work to rule.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I saw that phrase recently and looked at it. Thought,
Quiet quitting is when you do
Yeah.
only the hours and only the tasks stated on your contract of employment. But what if you really love your job? That's the thing. I mean, I went...
Life's never that simple anyway, is it?
No, I mean, a lot of people manage. They only put in what they're paid to do. But I've been raised to believe whether you're cleaning toilets or whether you're, polishing shoes, you do the best job to your ability and you'll get more rewards out of it and you'll be more pleasant, it'll be a pleasant experience. Whereas if you only spend your time watching the clock, you won't get anything out. That's how I feel. I mean, I can understand. I mean,
Sorry, Bo, what colour did you choose?
that's cadmium yellow. Just cadmium yellow, yeah.
No other.
Nope. Naught else.
Just weakish.
Fairly. You want it yellowish, but not too runny.
That's interesting. I never thought you'd have gone any yellow.
Well, it's just so when we put the red on, it'll have a bit more of an orangey glow in places. We'll probably end up having to put more yellow. Only because I'm lazy.
Is it supposed to be a gap? No.
Not really, but it's 8:10 and I thought, well, I better hurry up, really.
See, I was thinking the light was shining,
No, the light's kind of on the on this one it's interesting because it's got a light top, but then it's got a light side on that big one, hasn't it? It's kind of pale there and pale at the top there.
So just all over yellow.
Yeah, just shove a bit of yellow on.
Need a bigger brush.
I think as well with the quiet quitting or the work to rule, depends on what you do as well, doesn't it?
And I think it depends who you work with.
Yeah.
And Rosemary was just saying that about a manager that she had before she worked to rule because she didn't,
And how you're treated, isn't it? If
Yeah.
you feel valued, then you'll put the
exactly.
extra bit of time in. But if you're not,
I mean, people use the excuse that if they valued you, they'd pay you more. I have to say, as an employer, no matter how much I'd love to pay my staff more, if the money isn't coming in
Exactly.
and I'm on less than they are an hour,
then you can't.
I can't do it. I had a go at one of our local politicians who said, we need to raise the minimum wage up to a working wage. I said, that's in principle, I support that.
Yeah.
I said, however, what are you doing to make people spend that money locally? Because if you're giving everybody a raise, let's say, everyone's on £15 an hour minimum, then they're all going to go on Amazon and eBay and spend more money in China or with Jeff Bezos. So that money isn't spent locally.
Yeah.
So if the money's not spent locally, I'm not getting it in my business, yet I'm expected to pay my staff £15 an hour.
Yeah.
With what income? Because Amazon and eBay are getting it all. I said, so without a way of trying to get people to spend in their local economy, it actually isn't going to benefit anybody other than other countries.
Yeah.
And I get a few people don't quite get that, but you see it happening now. If people haven't got much money to spend, and they spend it on eBay or somewhere, then we're not getting it. It's not helping the town, and it's not helping the county, or it's not helping the country, is it? It's just making another rocket for Mr. Bezos. Like he needs a rocket, you know? Unless they're going to send him up there and leave him. Right, I'm going to.
Because he's in a rocket, isn't he?
Oh, is he in a rocket?
Did you not hear his speech?
I try not to listen to him. To be honest.
He was in a rocket that's going to blast off and then land in the Pacific and try and put that anyway. But he just used a. I don't know, anybody else heard that speech?
No, he used a bit of an analogy.
I saw a funny one with Theresa May about some cheese, where she was at one of the palace grounds. They were at a big event, and the food had all been brought in, and it was kind of a buffet thing, and everybody was helping and chipping in, and Theresa May was supposed to be carrying the tray of cheese over, and she dropped it on the floor, and she had a split second to think about what she should do. So she picked the cheese up and put it on the table, and as she looked around, the Queen was watching her, and the Queen just gave her a big grin, and the cheese stayed on the table. Right, so I'm using a bit of cadmium red. How is yours looking, Rosemary? Are you wearing it, Janet?
Sorry?
Are you wearing it?
Yes,
I've got one of my Tuesday afternoon students. No matter what she does, she gets covered. One time, you know, she actually got covered all up her arm, and we hadn't even got the paint out, and we had no we had no idea where it had come from. We still don't know. We did laugh. So now, as soon as she walks, we don't put the paint out until she arrives and sat down. We make sure she's covered in an apron. So if you want to add any shading, so this is just cadmium red. You can add a bit of cad yellow to it, but if you want to add a bit of shading, add a bit of black to your cad red. And that'll just make it slightly duller, a little bit purpley brown. And that will work quite nicely for underneath. But where it starts to come into its own, Wendy, is that, like, I've got this stripe here. But if I just give my brush a clean, or use a different brush, a smaller brush, and it's damp, I can blend it in even though it's dry underneath. So it gives you a lot more control, because you can put lights on top of darks, and you can constantly blend it. So like with that portrait of the Queen, I haven't varnished it. I could go back tomorrow and add a bit and blend a bit and tweak a bit if I wanted to. Yeah, that's gouache. I really enjoyed doing that, but I just felt compelled to paint it. It's not very often I feel that way, but I just thought, no, I've got to do one last one. I think, do you know what it is? I think it's because I sang at the beacon lighting ceremony. I mean, she wasn't there. She didn't ask me to do it. but because it was for the Jubilee,
Yeah, you can't have it.
I feel a bit closer to it, which is a bit. I know it probably sounds a bit daft, but
I'm pleased she survived the Jubilee. It's good.
yes. But there was a moment when she was looking on the balcony, looking from the balcony down, and it looked like she was just taking it all in because it was the last time. And it probably wasn't, but it just looked that way because she went all sombre as she saw all the crowds, and she went very pensive for a short amount of time.
Right, Barry, I'm a step away. You've just gone with cadmium red.
Cadmium red, and then
Nothing mixed in it.
no, you could mix a bit of cad yellow if you want to, and your darker bits are cadmium red and black. Do you want another one?
That's classical.
No, I mean it's going to get washed up regardless. So
I'm just very messy with it.
some of my acrylic students need 2 or 3 palettes. Oh God, yeah. They bought me a pack of paper plates to make up for it. You have a neat palette usage, Wendy, don't you?
Look at Wendy's at the mine.
You're a neat palette user.
Am I?
Yes. Well,
Oh.
look
mine.
at that. Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
It's a mess. Thanks, Barry.
That's all right. I didn't comment on your painting was a mess though. Just your. Do you know? I've got a theory. I don't clean my car because I feel that people won't rob it or steal stuff if it looks like it doesn't exist. If it looks like it shouldn't really be driving, then maybe they won't. I've got moss on my windows. Growing.
Right, so Barry, in terms of your brush stroke, I'm just thinking when you
Follow the. I've kind of gone round that way
what I would think that you'd do, just to give it a bit of a depth.
to shape it a little bit.
Otherwise, it's a bit flat, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it is going to get covered in the little. I'm sure they've got a name. Those nodules.
The spots.
Bill, you got an idea? What the white bobbly bits are called?
I don't know.
They've got to have a name, haven't they?
I've got an app.
You've got an app for that. I feel really bad because sometimes when I'm doing things about boats, I know nothing about boats, and then I'm trying to tell people what bit of the boat to paint, and I don't know. Looks like there's a bit of bird poo on that bottom one. We won't put that on. Yeah, I'm not into like botanical style where you have to put everything in. I'm more for the aesthetic.
You know, gold scales.
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 I wouldn't have said that, you know. But then I wouldn't know what else to call them other than bobbly bits. So if it doesn't give me the glow that I want, I might add a bit of cad yellow in with the red, and you can come back and glaze back over the top again with some cad yellow and red mixed. Don't feel like you've got one chance. I mean, we are running short of time. Because the problem is, if you lighten the red with just white, you're going to end up with a pink mushroom. So what you can do is, if you add a bit of yellow, then add white, you could lighten it that way. You're still with us, Rosemary? I just realised, for some bizarre reason, I've been doing everything with just one flat brush, and there's not really method behind why. I just haven't changed my brush, but I will in a minute. I might go a little bit darker underneath that big old mushroom in a minute, with a bit of, maybe a bit of black and blue. How you finding gouache, Wendy?
I like it. It's nice and smooth, isn't it? It's smooth. It goes on easier. It's that chalky kind of.
It kind of helps you. You don't have to worry about if you haven't got your light or your darks right. because you can change it,
Yeah.
which is really quite comforting in a way. So if you're working on this card that we're on, the greeny coloured card, and it starts to go a bit bobbly, it just means that you've got a bit too much moisture on there, and you're wearing your paper away. So let it dry and move on to another area, because I've got a little bit of that happening in one little spot of mine. I thought I'd mixed a pale orangey pinky colour up just for a highlight, and I'd not actually stirred it, and I just had a massive white stripe down the side of my mushroom. So last half an hour will be to do the scales. Now it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I like how it slowly starts to come together. I did find out though, just going to check, that when I was out paddling on the roof trying to clean it out, I did what the student, little minx, videoed me. But on the video that I posted on the shop thing, the manageress of White Stuff was also out on her roof clearing guttering, and we found that out. trying to get something toadstool-like. That's good, Rosemary, considering that's what we're painting. So I'm going to use a smallish flat brush, and weirdly I'm going to go with a bit of a dirty browny grey colour to paint all of the scales. And this is where you don't have to be exact. So a bit of brown, bit of black, bit of white. They tend to be bigger on the top. Especially on the big one. And they almost follow a trail, a ring around the shape. And then you can see they get much smaller around the base. It always reminds me of piped icing on a fairy cake. Or midget gems. Do you remember midget gems? The little biscuits with the little icing on. I used to love those. Basically anything with sugar in, I used to love. What you can do is where you've got slightly darker shaded parts of your red toadstool, you can make your white scales a little bit grayer. You can always add a bit more white if they go a bit dull afterwards, but some of them are a little bit duller than others. And they're very irregular shaped, so that's also a bonus, that you can literally just blob them on.
They're just white.
Well, I've made them sort of a browny white, so they're not as harsh. But white will work perfectly fine. Do you now?
Sorry.
Wow.
I know it is, isn't it? Thank you. I think it needs more highlights. You've got more yellow coming through.
Yeah, you
Did
could
you
add.
scrape it back?
No, you could just put more yellow on top because it's gouache. You can put the yellow back on. You're alright for colour at the moment. I'm going to give you a little bit more white ready for when you do the scales. Notice how I'm saying the word scales a lot now. I've learned what it's for.
Yeah. Very authoritative.
Thank you.
Knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'm your man for fungi. Oh, you could keep going and keeping going, absolutely. Which sometimes isn't a bad thing. But equally there are other times where you do need to just stop it. Just stop it.
Other things to do. Just stop it. Go and do the dishes.
I think there's just a lot more freedom to gouache. So you don't mind fiddling, you know what I mean? With watercolour, you get to a point and you think, oh, that's gone wrong, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. But with gouache, you can still correct it and you can still change it, so it works well. See, I've got one more trick up my sleeve for this, and that's basically a tiny brush with some runny black, and then the lower left and right side of each scale. We'll just add a bit of shadow, and it just starts to make it look 3D. It is very fiddly though. I mean, there's like 20 odd minutes left, but I'll just show you. How's it going, Janet?
Back to work, so yeah.
What bit's not going well?
Basically all of it, Barry.
Oh.
I've got very muddy and messy down the bottom.
Oh, I like that muddy, messy bit though. That's a nice dark. You could go even darker with a bit more of a blacky brown to bring those forward. Because if you look at the photo, it's almost black brown there, and that's what really makes the red pop.
Okay.
So I'd say do that, because I'm probably going to have to go back in with a bit more dark once I've highlighted every single scale, because that's the kind of guy I am. What, the spots? Yeah, and what I would say is just be conscious that you don't make them all exactly the same shape and size, because it's really easily done, because you're doing it quite repetitively.
Yeah.
And that's when it's easy to just replicate them. So twist your brush a little bit, move your hand in a different way, because you'll think you're doing them all differently,
Yeah.
and then you'll look at them and you've done them in a beautiful shape that's very perfect.
Yeah.
It does look good when you put the spots on though. And then a little bit of a grey just on the right and the bottom. Makes them feel a little bit more solid. I don't think I've put enough spotty scales on, so I'll add a few more. Right, so the next class will be the 26th. I'm not getting rid of it yet, I'm just making sure I know. And it's a stag in the woodland in Pen and Wash. Are you here for that, Amanda?
What date is that?
26th.
26th, I think so, yeah.
Because Julie's down for that one.
I'll confirm with you, Barry, but I'm sure.
Are you here, Wendy?
Yeah.
I think we've got Cole back as well.
It's whether I was going on the boat.
Yeah, of course.
Because if we were doing this in watercolour, it wouldn't work in the same way. See, what I might do as well is make a bit more grass, and I know that seems a bit weird, and I might stick a tiny bit of white in there. So I can do some more opaque pieces. Oh, Janet, what I'm going to do is when I'm downstairs tomorrow, I'll have a look and see what dates for the gallery wall space is clear.
I say, I haven't mentioned it to anybody, so next year will be better.
That's fine.
But it was just a thought.
That'll be quite cool.
Well, you've seen some of Joe's pictures, haven't you?
Yeah.
He's at university now, so I don't know how much time he's got.
But I suppose with enough time and warning, Even if you put, if with enough time and warning, even if you put 1 or 2 pieces
Yes.
in.
Well, he might have some he's done already, mustn't he?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I mean, he'll have to check. He was saying about copyright stuff like that. I don't know whether a lot of the ones he's done for us, birthday cards and that, have just been his own films, haven't they?
Yeah.
So,
Should be alright. It's coming up to 5 too. But it's kind of economical, isn't it, the paint, in a way? Because you're not using buckets of it like you would in watercolour. Just highlight that bit again. I think gouache is definitely up there with one of my favourite media. Because you've been really looking forward to this, haven't you, Wendy?
I really have.
Has it met your expectations?
Yes, I've really enjoyed it.
Good. How have you found tonight, Bill? You enjoyed it? I've already forgotten what we're doing when we come back after the funeral break. What did I say? Stag in the forest in Pen and Wash. You can never go wrong with a stag in the forest, I don't think. Did it work going a bit darker, Janet? Oh yes, I really like that. I do. Do you want to see what it looks like from a distance? I won't put it on there. But
I was going to say, please don't.
Well,
Better
look at that.
Oh, that's great. That's fabulous.
Really good.
That's really lovely.
Oh, I love the light as well you've got on the toadstools.
Yeah, you've got a nice glow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dark has brought it forward, hasn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. First ever Gouache. But it's good, isn't it? Because you can just put light on dark, dark on light. Doesn't
You can
really
spend
matter.
hours on this one.
Yeah. Well, if I take me tracing back,
Oh yeah.
and I'll move them out the way.
This one there.
There's one down here. pleased with it or not?
I think it needs a lot of work, but yeah, I think that we can spend.
But it is one you can keep fiddling with, isn't it?
Yeah.
We did a watercolour portrait on Friday afternoon. That's what my piece was.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh,
Who is it?
No, just a random.
Yeah, very
But she got quite dark, rich, sort of almost skin tones. And I'd made her my colour, which is like milk bottle, so I ended up having to add a lot more tone than I'd planned. Because previously, you see, we'd done one just in black and white,
No, that's
like a nice starlet.
oh,
But Chris was like, I want to do one with skin colour because I need to practice skin colour. So I went and did I can't remember who that was. She's a famous Hollywood star from the 30s
Yeah.
and 50s. But it's really hard. What's hard in watercolour is portraits to get the skin tone blended. Because if you add a darker colour or whatever, you end up lifting off the colour underneath and what have you. But with gouache, it's a little bit easier because you can just keep adding and blending and adding lighter tones and darker tones and all of that. Well, it is almost 9 o'clock. Sometimes the more simple images can be more challenging in a way because you fiddle more.
I thought it was going to be one.
Just one toadstool. Well, it kind of is one with 3 little bits at the bottom. I nearly did do just one. I thought, how nice am I going to be today? And then I decided not very.
Not very, no.
So Barry, probably not this week. I'm going to buy some wooden panels.
Oh yeah, because you're doing, when is the
Oh, the seascape. I may even come to that in person.
oh, that'd be nice.
Got, space.
I think we've got a bit of space at the moment.
I was going to go on the boat. Yeah.
Did you have it when we last one?
The 24th, isn't it?
Yeah. So, have you still got space?
Let me have a look. Because I know we were getting quite filled up.
Two. I don't know if you still have.
Yeah, I've got space. Do you want to come?
Can I confirm
Question-
next week?
should I question
Put
mark
a question, thank you.
That'd be exciting. I've got people that I don't know as well coming.
Yeah.
That makes me nervous when they're new. Because I have to try and at least put on a good show for that lesson. Reel them in.
We
And
don't
then-
care about the lesson.
And then when I've got you and you've come back, I don't care about you anymore. No offence, Wendy.
No, that's okay. I rarely take any offence.
No, I do get nervous when I get a class full of newbies. Because I don't know what their expectation is. But
You don't know what their experience is.
no, I know. I remember doing an adult history, art history lecture for adult education. And I think it was, what was I doing? The Art Nouveau. And I was in a lecture hall, and the woman right on the front row had done a degree in Art Nouveau. And she was like, oh, why haven't you said this? Why haven't you mentioned that? And I just think, why are you here?
Yeah, why is she
exactly.
here?
Yeah.
To show off, maybe.
Yes, probably.
Because it put me under a lot of stress, because it was like 10 till 4 with half an hour lunch, and I just thought,
Why would she be there, really? She knows everything.
oh dear me, I just felt drained, because clearly she knew it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there may have been some things that I was teaching her that she didn't know, but for me, I just felt, you know, maybe you should just go home, kind of thing,
Yeah.
because you don't need to be here.
Booked in for half a day, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember that happening at the Art Society once? We had that one artist visit, and she was rubbish. It was when we were at the RVS Centre, and she was awful, and she kept just showing her work down by her waist so nobody could see. And I can't remember who the chair was. I think it was Brian, and she was so bad. And he said, halfway through, this was at the coffee break stage, he said, "Thanks ever so much. You've got a long way to travel back, so you might as well start packing up now."
Right.
And she should have gone for another 45 minutes, but she was so bad.
Oh, I don't remember.
Even Liz next to me was doodling on a handkerchief because she was bored, because we couldn't see and we couldn't hear.
No.
You know, and she was just saying, yes, and last week I painted this, and then a few years later I painted this,
Oh.
and it was like, oh, she was good on a website, but that doesn't always mean that they're any good at talking, is it? Really, you know, you might find the most amazing artist, but if they're not very good at, you know, I can remember we had another one, and he just sat there painting, and we kept having to say, well, what are you doing now? And he's like, oh, well, I've got to do this now. Okay, well, what colours are you using? Oh, well, I'm using that now. I think really difficult. I miss the art society,
Yes. Yeah.
but I think if we tried to reinvent it again, I don't think there's enough. There's certainly not enough original members left that would
No.
want to do it now,
No.
and I don't think there's not the right age group yet that are yearning for something. I think maybe in my 50s or 60s, people would be like, oh, Banbury should have an art society, you know.
Sorry? No, it's not. It's not. I'm leaving it.
It's difficult, isn't it?
It is, because that
'Cause
group back in the town, that was good, wasn't it?
it was. It was.
That was working out really
We were just starting to get numbers.
Yeah. There we go.
Ooh, good. Rosemary's didn't turn out too well. You have. I say you have. I'd forgotten. Hang on. So I will say thank you, Rosemary. I will look forward to seeing what you post. And thanks for sticking it out with us. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. So take care. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.